This resource is to help you learn about TEK 2.8a. Our objective is I can measure, record, and graph weather information, including temperature, wind conditions, precipitation, and cloud coverage, in order to identify patterns in the data. Now let's read that together. I can measure, record, and graph weather information, including temperature, wind conditions, precipitation, and cloud coverage, in order to identify patterns in the data. Your vocabulary is listed next. So what we're going to do is I'm going to read one of the words and you're going to repeat it. So our first word is measure, then record, graph, temperature, wind conditions, precipitation, cloud cover, patterns, and data. So as we go through this little presentation, you guys are going to learn about these vocabulary words and you're going to learn how to complete our objective. First, we're going to take a look at the vocabulary words. The first word here is measure. When we are measuring something, we are using a tool to gather information. You can see a weather vane, an anemometer, and you can see a little guy on the end holding a tool that shows how windy it is, and a thermometer to show how hot or cold it is. The second word is record. When you record what you've learned, you're writing down what you measured. So in this case, you would be writing down the weather information. The last one is graph. This is where you will write down your information. This is on your DIY, and you all should have that. The next vocabulary word is temperature. Temperature is measured with a thermometer, and it tells how hot or cold something is. After that is wind conditions, which is when you tell how much the wind is blowing. You can use an anemometer to help you measure this. And finally, on this page, we have precipitation, which is water in the form of rain, snow, sleet, or hail falling from the sky. We are on our last slide of vocabulary words. The word here is cloud cover. Cloud cover tells how many clouds are in the sky. In the picture, we can tell that the sky is cloudy. The next word is pattern, or something that repeats itself over a period of time. For example, in the springtime, flowers start to bloom. Every year in spring, we can count on the flowers and the trees starting to bud and grow. Finally, the word is data, which is information that you collect by observing and recording the information about the weather using your weather tools. Okay, now we're moving on to how do you measure, record, and graph weather information. And this slide focuses on temperature. If you look at the first thermometer, an arrow is going to appear. Do you see how the arrow stops where the red line stops? That tells us the temperature. In the first thermometer, the temperature is 20 degrees. On our graph, we would record it on day 1 as 20. Underneath it, I put cold because 20 degrees is cold. On the second thermometer, you will see the arrow coming along, As you see, it is pointed right where the red line ends. This time, it's pointing at 60. Now, look at the chart again. This time, on day 2, I put 60 and said that it would be chilly. Kinda cool. We may need a sweater if it's only 60 degrees. This slide talks about wind conditions. As you see, there's a weather vane and an anemometer on this page, because that is how we measure the wind. Did you see how when the tools came in, the picture at the anemometer at the bottom was spinning? That means that it's windy. Look at the graph. Right above day 1, beside where it says wind conditions, I put windy. Now the anemometer is still. So above day 2, on the row with wind conditions, I put calm. This slide describes how we measure precipitation. Remember, precipitation is any form of water falling from the sky. We measure precipitation with a rain gauge. Do you see the first rain gauge? It is empty. So on day 1, where it says precipitation, I put none. Now, do you see the second rain gauge? Do you see the blue? That is water. That means it rains. So if we're measuring it, it's at the number 3. That means 3 inches. So on day 2, beside precipitation, I put 3 inches in rain. Finally, we're on a slide about cloud cover. Remember, cloud cover is how much clouds are in the sky. Do you see the first day? The sun is bright and shining. So I went over to my graph above day 1 where it said cloud cover and I put clear. Do you see the second picture? This was day 2. It was mostly cloudy on that day. There's not much sun to be seen. I went above day 2 to cloud cover, and I put mostly cloudy.